Cuba is a multifaceted, complicated place to not only live, but for Maranatha. Yet for the past 3 decades, Maranatha has dug deep into the challenges, leaping hurdle after hurdle to build and renovate more than 200 churches and even construct a new seminary. But in recent years, Cuba's situation has taken a turn for the worse. The country has been plagued by a severe economic crisis, and people are suffering. Suddenly, the void isn't about worship space, it's about food, it's about medicine, it's about the basic necessities to live. Starting in 2022, Maranatha's efforts pivoted to providing life-sustaining aid to Cuba. Hundreds of donors have provided enough funding to send 10 shipping containers to date full of food, medicine, and other necessities to Cuba. In the meantime, the church in Cuba still needs help in the form of worship space. Many of the existing spaces are either too small or falling apart. So in 2024, Maranatha is beginning a few new projects, including construction of the Nuevitas Seventh-day Adventist Church, located on the northeast central coast of Cuba. We are also working with the Adventist Church in Cuba to purchase homes that have government authorization to be used as house churches or outreach ministry centers. After all, Jesus reminds us in the gospel that we do not live by bread alone, but by the word of God. In Cuba, Maranatha is working to provide both, nourishing and growing the kingdom, for now and forever.
So anybody been to Cuba? Well, there's a guy that was born there. Okay, I just learned that. That's we just showed a video about Cuba. We can show it to you later. Okay, so that's Cuba. Anybody have any input, questions, anything about Cuba that you'd like to hear or talk about? Can you grab a microphone, Kyle, in case anybody wants to say anything? We got a lady right back here.
My twin sister went down to Cuba. With a little small group from Elkhart, Indiana, and they're working with some new conference or something like that. How many conferences are there, and are you working with a lot of them or whatever?
Yeah, we've worked over the entire island. We've either rebuilt or built new over 200 churches in Cuba. Most of the big ones, like in Havana area or in the Camagüey, the big cities, we've built the churches there. And there's 6 conferences and a union. One of the things that's happened over the last few years, you probably heard this, is a lot of people have been able to leave the island. If you can get out, you get out. Life is very, very difficult for the people. And so, for example, you go to church on Sabbath morning, your pastor isn't there. You say, where's the pastor? He and his family were able to get out of the country, and everybody understands. So, they've lost literally thousands of church members that way. About a third of the pastors have left. So what church leaders, you can't hardly blame them. It's hard to get food, there's very little electricity. Gasoline is almost impossible. Medical care, forget about it. People starving. It's a tough thing. You don't hear a lot about it in the news. You're starting to hear a little bit now, but that's what's been going on. But so, what do you think has happened to the church? What's happened to the church in this kind of an environment? Anybody have a guess? What's happened to the church?
The church in Cuba? Yeah. Well, I've watched 3ABN a little bit. I think they've shipped some shipping containers periodically, I know that, down there to help the church members.
Yeah, our video said 10. I think we're at, what, 14?
14 now, yeah.
14 shipping containers of food that we've shipped. My point was the church has grown. You wonder about that, but I've asked some of the people, how is it that the church is growing in a situation like that? Well, it's actually pretty simple. When you don't have anything else to depend on, where do you turn? You turn to God. So I was talking to an elder in one of the churches. He said every time people leave the country because they get permission or whatever they do, he says other people come in and take their place. So the church has actually grown through this difficult time, surprisingly. It's
The government won't let the skilled people leave. Like tool and die makers, they won't let them go. And this is something I heard way back when. But like if you, people that are valuable to the government, maybe if you can repair a tank or something, they won't let you go. They'll keep you there.
well, that's changed a bit. For example, virtually all of the physicians have left. It's I don't know about the tool and die guys, but maybe they hold them. I'm not sure, but I haven't heard that. During this time, if you had money, you could buy your way out of the country. But where do the people get money? They get paid $10 or $12 a month. You know, how is it possible? Some get money from relatives, and then they're able to leave. They sell whatever asset they have. That's how we've been able to buy houses for churches at such a low price, because people are looking to get money to get out of the country. That's really what's going on. So, other questions? Other?
Yeah, I do. So, no, it's okay. I'm just going to tag team it here with Don. But, you know, a couple of cool opportunities through the suffering of the people in Cuba. One is there's a container full of Bibles on its way to Cuba right now. Bibles have become a challenge there. They used to get a lot of them when it opened up to Christianity, but that support has dwindled. And so when we were there, you know, a few months ago, that was the number one need that they had to, you know, all these people are joining the church and they're sharing or borrowing somebody else's Bible. And so that became, so we have 14,000 Bibles headed to help meet some of that need. So that's one cool thing. So the other piece that Don started on is when you have all this leadership leaving, who comes to fill the void, right? Well, it ends up being other members or the elders or the lay people, so you have to train them. How does that happen? Any ideas? How would you train them? There's a group from Indiana doing it. Okay, they probably went somewhere, right? They probably went to the Seventh-day Adventist Seminary that you saw there. So that is another thing that we've taken on as a project, supporting that seminary. Go ahead, Don.
We actually built the seminary when I first went down there in '94. The seminary was the front porch of the union office. They had chairs out there, and a few guys, you know, stood out there, and professors would teach them. And we could see that down the road they were probably going to need something more. We didn't understand, as I look back, I don't know why we built that seminary to handle 150 people, but we did. Right now they have 120 there, and why do they need 120? Well, a lot of those pastors are gone, and so they need to be training new pastors, and it's working quite well. They also have classes for people that aren't going to be pastors but are going to help run the churches. So it's really positive, and we have been supporting the seminary. They were about to close it down last year until we were able to get food to them. If you can't feed the students, and the students don't have money to pay, where would they get the money to pay? It's a real tough society, but God's blessing it. I want you to get that. I hope did I get that across? God's really blessing them down there, despite their very, very difficult situation. And hey, it's a blessing to be able to be involved with them. If you want something fun to do, go to the Maranatha website, maranatha.org. We had a convention last Sabbath in Sacramento, and the union president was there. He talks very fast, and he doesn't speak English. And this guy works real hard to keep up with him. Kenneth's first language is Spanish, He had to learn English. So, this lady back here speaks Spanish, by the way. She said she was analyzing how you were doing.
Good, I'll talk to you later. I need
Yes,
some help.
Kyle.
That's all right. What is it like working with the governments of a country like Cuba for you guys? Like, what is it like for Maranatha to, because I would imagine you have to get some sort of government approval to do a lot of the things that you're doing. Is that true?
You've nailed it right on.
Yeah.
Everything,
so what's that look like?
everything is about permission in Cuba. Everything is about permission. I'll give you an example. We had rented a helicopter from the government. This was probably 20 years ago. And it was a big helicopter. We were going into a town where we built a big church. And we were landing in this field. Unfortunately, when we came down into the field, the helicopter blew the roof off 3 houses. Oh, no. So we asked the people what they thought about us coming in there in this helicopter. What do you think they said? What? No, they says, well, what we do know is that you have permission. You have to have permission. So, yeah, everything's based on permission. We've been able to, because of some of the good church leaders down there, frankly, we've been able to develop over the years a very good working relationship with the Minister of Religion. You would not think that Cuba would have a Minister of Religion, but they do. And her name is Caridad Diego. We know her well. She's actually a very lovely lady. And she's been very good to us. She's been good to work with. Last time we met her, she met with a group of our volunteers that were there. And she addressed the group, and she said, I want you to know, despite what you hear, she says, we're really very nice people down here. And then she turned to me, she says, you've been here over 100 times, and I'd be happy to give you citizenship, but if I gave it to you, then you couldn't get back into the United States. So, but yeah, we have a good working relationship, and you're actually absolutely right. You never know about permission, and they don't tell you why. It's just there or gone. It's just the way it works. But the church has to work closely with the government on every single thing they do. The simplest things that we won't try to get into all those details. Anybody else, anything on Cuba? Oh, the Cuban. I couldn't hear you, but he's got a microphone right there.
I say usually in Cuba, most of the material belongs to the government. The petrol, all that stuff belongs to the government. So when you guys build the cement blocks and stuff, how do you guys acquire that to do the structure?
Yeah, well, a lot of it right now you can't buy in Cuba. You can't buy steel there. You can't buy hardly any construction materials there. We ship almost everything in that we're using to build now. We ship rebar. We ship cement. It all comes from Panama at this point. Yes, not from the United States, by the way.
Mixers, shovels, screwdrivers. I mean,
Yeah, you name it.
you name it. It's paint rollers,
Yeah,
paint.
we were planning a volunteer group in there to help paint the seminary after all these years. It needed some upkeep. And we planned it, I don't know, 8 months ahead. And the group kept getting closer and closer. Container came 2 months after they were there with all the paint supplies. You just don't know.
Yeah, didn't get the permission.
Yeah, wasn't permission. So, yeah, it's complicated. So I asked the guys down there, where's this thing going? Where's it going? Is it sustainable? It's hardly sustainable. I mean, you've probably heard in the news just in the last couple of weeks, you know, nationwide blackouts of electricity. The last one was 48 hours, the entire country out of electricity. That's tough. It's very tough. In the little towns, that's pretty common. You get that almost all the time. If you're in Havana, you're more likely to get it. The bigger towns might get it for a couple hours. Just depends. So pray for Cuba. It's a place, God loves those people. He loves the people of Cuba. And by the way, they like Americans. Just thought I'd throw that in. They're all very happy to see us. Nice people. Okay. Any other country you want to talk about? Oh. Nobody has a country they want to talk about? Zambia? Okay. I'm going to have my Zambia expert back here. Actually, we've done a lot of work in Zambia over the years. Kyle's our Vice President for Projects, and he'll talk about Zambia.
So did you have a specific question about Zambia? Right.
Do you also build the wells, and what activities and things do you guys do with the natives and stuff like that, like learning the culture and different things like that?
Sure. So Maranatha has been involved in Zambia since 2010. Yeah, 2009, 2010, we were building one-day churches in the country. And then we moved on elsewhere and then came back a few years ago and started responding to a specific request from the church leadership in Zambia and also from the division, asking us to really help with the great need for churches. So there are a lot of Seventh-day Adventist members in the country of Zambia. I don't know if you're familiar or not, but the president of the country of Zambia is a Seventh-day Adventist, and there are about 1.45, almost 1.5 million Seventh-day Adventists in the country, out of a population of, I think it's 14 million, 18 million. So you can see there the ratio is pretty high. So Adventism is well respected in the country, and they grow very rapidly there. So they have a very big need for churches. And as the church grows, they have no place to meet, and they're meeting under trees, they're meeting in very rudimentary structures. And so the request to Maranatha was, can you really help us with this need for new churches? And so we've been building one-day churches in the country. We built nearly 1,000 so far, and that has really made a big difference, but it has hardly touched the need. So the number of people that are being baptized every year is far more than the capacity that we're building every year in terms of church space. So the need just gets bigger and bigger as we go along. However, we've got to do everything that we can do. And so the last few years we were building about 100 churches, 120 churches a year. This year we're going to be building 50. And that's not because the need has dropped, but the funding has not kept up with the amount of requests that come from that country. So before I jump, I'm going to jump over to schools, but Laura might have a question about churches.
I was just going to ask about schools. So.
Yeah, we're going to cover the whole country. Yes, sir.
One-day churches, you mentioned that. Bring us up to date on where one-day churches, have they got larger? Are they just multiplying? Where is one-day churches?
In terms of where we're working with? Okay.
Hey, Kyle,
Okay.
maybe we should back up and explain what a one-day church is.
Certainly.
The concept behind the one-day church, it sounds impossible to build a church in one day. It really came out of the fact we sat down with some church leadership people. You can't hear it. Can you hear it now? Can you hear me now? We sat down with some church leadership people. Did you want to say something, Kenna? Oh, I'm getting lots of signals. So we started talking about the huge demand that's happened around the world for churches. When Maranatha started in 1969, there was 1.9 million Seventh-day Adventists worldwide, okay? And most of that is not in the developing world as we know it now. But since that time, where has the church grown? Up to technically around 23 million, but it's probably a little more than that. But where is that growth? Is it in the United States? No. Is it in Europe? No. Is it in Australia? Where's my Australians? No. It's East Central Africa division is the largest division now with over 5.5 million people. Back in those days, it was like 25,000. So that's where all that growth has happened. The church policy worldwide is that if you raise up a church, it's the responsibility of that church, or if they have a conference, to build their church. Well, what if you can't feed yourself? You're not going to be building a church. They can't afford it. So what do they do? Well, that's why we get thousands of requests, I suppose. And a lot of people try to help, and we do help, but the demand outstrips it, which is actually a good thing, isn't it? Isn't it a good thing that the church is growing faster than we can keep up? So the gospel is growing all over the world. That's the reason for the one-day church, is because we can't build expensive churches. We have to do something that's less expensive, that can happen faster. And we're doing that now in places, well, like we call them bush areas. In parts of Africa, it's okay. It's the nicest building for miles around. And it's solid, and it's not going to be blown down by some storm that comes along. And oftentimes, as Laura was mentioning this morning, they can use local materials, and they can finish it up, and it doesn't cost so much. So we can help more places. That's the concept behind the one-day church. We do a lot of other kinds of churches when it's appropriate. But there is a place for the one day. And Kyle will tell you how many we've done.
Yes, do you have a question?
Yes, I do have a question.
Yeah.
I'm from Japan.
Yes.
And thank God that the one American missionary came to Japan. So that's why my family became a Seventh Adventist. And I'm a third generation here I am in the United States. So, but recently I heard that my Japan and Christianity and Seventh Adventist, they are shrinking down.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm wondering if the Maranatha is involved in Japan in some way, in any way, and also is there any involvement, the Maranatha involvement in China? Because my friend, he spent at least 1 decade or 13, 15 years in China, and he told me that there's an open church, but he came back last year, but he went back to China, and also he's teaching English in a university, but he still wants to keep doing an underground church and to just to spread the gospel. So is Maranatha involved in China and Japan?
So those are really good questions, and I'm glad you asked that. It brings up the question of why does Maranatha work in the places that they work, or how do you choose where you work? And the answer to that is that Maranatha is a responsive ministry to the overall leadership of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So we work very closely with the leadership of the different regions of the church around the world, and we respond to the requests that they bring us. When we can't say yes to everything, but as they lead us to the areas that are of their priority, we sit and look and pray and try to determine where can we involve volunteers, where will our donors fund projects, and then we try to respond to those projects. So right now, the leadership of the church has not led us to specific needs in Japan and in China, so we're not working there at present. We were just at the general conference session, and we had leadership from around the world visiting and talking to us, and there were people from over 30 countries that talked to us, and some of those were in places of the world that we haven't worked before. So we listen to those requests, we pray about them, and then we sit with the leadership of usually the divisions, and we let them help guide us where in their territories they would like to see us work. And that's the way that we began working in Zambia. And we'll get back to one-day churches in a second, but the leadership in Zambia, like I said, even the leadership of the division guided us to Zambia. So then we started working there. We start to bring volunteers. People come, they get excited, they donate. And so then that keeps us involved in that country. And so, so far we've built almost 1,000 churches, or one-day churches or just a little under that in Zambia. Overall, we've built almost 6,800 one-day churches around the world, and that program was more robust a few years ago. Right now, we are building as many as we get funding for. So as people support that program, we build churches with the one-day church program primarily in Zambia and Kenya right now. Those are places where those buildings make a really big difference, and they've been able to really help the church grow in those regions. So as the funding comes in, we build as many as we can. That is a program that scales really well, so as more funding comes, we can build more. And that program, the One Day Church, is about 21 by 40 typically, and it can seat over 100 people depending on how close they sit together. And that's something that makes a big difference. It has a roof, the congregation can usually put the walls up, and so they have a structure that they can use to meet for church from week to week. So that one-day church program has really made a big difference. It continues to do that. In some places, though, it's not an appropriate church structure. We have to build something bigger. And so we also do that even in Zambia. There's places where, say in the cities, where a bigger church is needed and perhaps a little nicer church. And so we have a group of volunteers going to Zambia actually later this month, and they'll be building a church that'll be blocked up, and it'll be in a city, and it will be a little nicer structure than the one-day churches. So we do that. We are also building schools. So now I'll wrap back to Laura's question. In the country of Zambia, education has been something that they did not focus on early in the formation of the church. Now, the early missionaries in the 1920s came and they put in mission schools in a few places around the country, and we find that many of those places are where we get asked to come back and help build schools because those mission stations made a big impact, and the facilities now, more than 100 years later, really need some renovation. Maranatha is working at a mission station called Mwami. So there's a hospital there. It's close to Malawi, and it's a place where they had elementary schools operating really successfully up till right now, but they didn't have a secondary education school there for the kids to go on to high school. So what was happening is they would leave the secondary schools, and there was more than 1,000 kids in those couple of secondary schools, and then there was no place for them to go after that. And there was a radius of 10 miles in which there was no secondary school at all, not even Adventist, but no secondary schools. And so we're building a large school there right now, and that will really make a big impact because now kids will be able to leave elementary school and go on to Adventist education. We're also working at a place called Sala. It's another mission station. It was built in the 1920s, and the Sala school when we visited first, it had over 1,200 students. In fact, some of the classrooms had more than 150 kids in one grade in one classroom. The kids were all on the floor. They were sitting basically on each other's laps. They were just stacked in that classroom. And when we went back here, we're building there, we're working, and the anticipation of the local people that there's going to be increased infrastructure there has caused the enrollment to grow. So more than 1,500 kids there right now, and they're packed in like sardines into these classrooms Maranatha is building classrooms right now. We're building student or teacher housing so that they can increase the number of teachers that can be there. We built a church, and then this will greatly impact the capacity there for them to reach the kids in that area. So education is a big thing in Zambia for the Seventh-day Adventist Church. It's an area that they really want to grow in and need to grow in, but they need infrastructure. So it's a way that Maranatha can make a big impact in that country. So,
and many other countries. Yeah. Do you have access to that picture of that Dominican project we just finished? Oh. Yes? Can we put it up? No, just the picture of the...
When it comes to the long-reaching impact of Maranatha's mission, there is perhaps no country more iconic than the Dominican Republic. This is where Maranatha launched its first multi-project effort 33 years ago. Now, a tour of this beautiful Caribbean nation would showcase hundreds of projects by Maranatha, including 224 churches, many that have given birth to new congregation after congregation. It is a physical timeline of what can happen when you combine perseverance, faith, and mission. Today, this formula continues to thrive in the Dominican Republic. Driven by the spirit of evangelism, congregations are still sprouting up in new neighborhoods with new needs for places of worship. Congregations are meeting in small homes, in garages, under patios, and under trees. This year, Maranatha has continued our effort in the Dominican Republic to meet this need, working in the greater Santo Domingo area and also expanding into new regions in the southern and central parts of the nation. We've constructed 13 churches and drilled 10 wells. We also completed a large school campus, Ciudad del Cielo, the first Adventist school in an area with a large church membership. All this with more already being planned for the year ahead. Because the spirit of evangelism in the Dominican people is unstoppable, which means church growth is inevitable. And these new congregations are facing old challenges, the same ones that their brothers and sisters faced decades ago. But this time with the knowledge that faith and hope in the mission of Maranatha will answer their prayers.
Thank you. My point there was that we don't just build one-day churches. If you pick up a magazine out there, our current magazine has a picture of the campus that we just finished. I don't know if you haven't had a chance to grab it, who would like to look at it? You look like you'd like to look at it. It's very different than a one-day church. So grab a magazine out there, and you can see that it's quite different and making an impact. There's 80 churches in this area that have no access to Christian education. That's why we built that school and that church, that particular location.
And this church is planning to go there, right? And you're leaving for a site visit here in a few days, right, Eric? In 2 weeks. So
You're going to San Pedro de Macorís. Yeah. Maranatha's built quite a few churches in San Pedro de Macorís. When I first went down there in 1983, they had a mission in the north and a conference in the south. The East Mission, which it was and still is located in San Pedro de Macorís, was the third of the 6 fields that they now have in the country. So you're going to be working in an area that's got a lot of history. It's a pretty good-sized town. It's a baseball town. I think I told you that for sure. Yes, in the back.
I just want to read something about Japan.
About what?
The Seventh-day Adventist Church in Japan, through the Japan Union Conference, oversees 93 churches and has 15,043 members as of 2024. The major church includes Tokyo International and the Osaka Central SDA Church.
Thank you. That's good. You know, some of these areas it's tough because Japan is an area with a lot of membership or a lot of population. But as I think it was Kyle, maybe it was you, Kenneth, that was saying, we respond to the requests of the church. In fact, next week we're going to the General Conference Executive Committee in Washington, and we're meeting with quite a number of division presidents who are bringing to us more requests for projects. And what we do is we say, we'll do what we can. And that's what we can do, is what we can. Go ahead.
With these one-day churches or even the block churches, do they provide any classroom facilities for the children, or do they, how do they do that? Do they have separate children's things, or I know some places they just incorporate them all together?
Well, how would you like this answer? It depends. It depends. It depends on a number of things. One of the things it depends on is space. Do they have enough land? That's one of the things that has to be looked at. Our goal is to always provide a place for the children. You can't always do it, but we do try. And in the area of the one-days, sometimes we'll build 2 one-days. And that does happen. But in the bigger churches, we try to make sure that there's space for the children because, hey, children are important, very important. Can you show the video from the church leader that
yeah, sure.
we, last week, I think I mentioned that we had a convention, Maranatha convention. We had about 2,000 people there, and we had the new president of the General Conference there, Pastor Ayrton Kohler, and he's a good supporter of Maranatha. He knows us pretty well, and Kenneth, that's our convention there. That's what it'll look like, and Kenneth's going to pull, what, a minute or 2 off of what he said at the convention about his view of Maranatha.
And when we talk about mission, we need to talk about Maranatha. Because as I mentioned, Maranatha is all about mission. And I was thinking here, only in 2024, Maranatha built 299 different churches. I could talk about wells, schools, orphanages, and others, but just talking about churches, 299. You know, one church each 29 hours. It means 25 churches per month. It means one church every working day of the week. It is to celebrate. This is our mission. When we think about the impact of Maranatha during the last 56 years, from 1967, it is amazing. I have some information here. Maranatha already built 14,000 structures, or 14,000 churches and orphanages and schools. Maranatha built more structures than McDonald's that we have in the United States. Yes, they have a little bit more than 13,000. We built 14,000 structures. When we think about that, Maranatha is present, is working, or already worked in 90 different countries. When we think about that, it represents more than the G20 and the European Union together.
He has a sense of humor, so next time you drive by a McDonald's, that big M stands for Maranatha Mission. It doesn't just stand for McDonald's. And like he said, they built 13,000 or so. We built 14,000, and here's another one that he forgot. They started before we did. Okay, before I move to the next section, anybody else have another question? Yes, sir.
talk to me about some ways in which I can personally help support Maranatha and what you're doing, and maybe a little bit about the mission itself. So you are not associated directly with the General Conference. You're an independent ministry, I would imagine. I don't know if that's accurate.
That's correct. We work very closely with the church, but we are not, what should I say? What they say is we're not in the yearbook. We don't have to do a project if they ask us to do it. We do it if we are able to do it. But yeah, we work closely with them. But we are structured. We have our own board of directors. In fact, I don't know if David's still here. David Shull, who designed this building, is architect, sits on our board, and our board makes the decisions ultimately in terms of what we do, the direction that we take. So I don't know if that answers your question, but how you can get involved, I'm going to give this to Karen, and she's going to answer your question.
So there's multiple ways. We like to say three things: go, give, or pray, because all three of those are needed. I'll start with the go. How many here have been on a mission trip? I know that this place is very active, so yes, a lot of you have already been. Are there some in here that have wanted to but have not? Okay, some that have wanted to go but have not. There's multiple reasons for this. We have found some people are very nervous about just something different. You don't have to go internationally to be involved. You can do something here in North America. Some people prefer those because they don't like international travel. So if you decide that you'd like to be involved in Maranatha here in North America, you just get yourself there, and they host organization. They take care of you. They feed you. If you don't have an RV, then they usually find housing and whatnot for you. You just work all that through our office. So that's North America. If you want to be involved in a project and you're not able to connect locally with some of the projects going on here, Maranatha has projects that are open to everyone. And we have the locations that we have right now are Brazil, Paraguay, Peru. I mentioned North America, Kenya, Zambia, and India. Did I get them all? Dominican Republic, missed that one. Dominican Republic. So those are ways that you can be involved physically. You can go, which we absolutely love to have you on trips. It's life-changing. The other way is giving. We have multiple ways that people give. We tried our very best to have opportunities for people in every economic group. We have what we call the $10 church program that has been around since 1988, and it was patterned after the dime tabernacle. Instead of 10 cents, was $10. So we're coming up on, in let's see, 2028, it'll be 40 years since that program started, and we have sponsored, let's see, are we over 500 or are we over 400 churches? Anyway, I've forgotten the total number, but all those $10 together have made a huge difference for many countries. And we've also got the one-day churches. Those, you can be a part of a one-day church with a $1,500 gift. You can sponsor an entire one-day church with a $7,500 gift. Water wells, 10,000 will sponsor. You can be a sponsor for 10,000. Also, schools. And you don't have to fall within that sponsorship category. Whatever you're able to give, Maranatha can use. And we use your money as wisely as possible to make sure that the mission is fulfilled. And then pray. We always need prayers. So did that help?
That helps. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
There's two more areas I'd like to touch on if you have we try to keep it under an hour. Do we have a video on water, or did we use it? You have one? and then I'll save the last one for the last one. Okay, let's take a look at water. Somebody asked me recently, why didn't you start drilling wells a long time ago? I said, I didn't think of it. It's I don't know. The need's been there all along, but God led us to do it now, so we're drilling for water. So go ahead, Kenneth.
We take water for granted. Every day, dozens of times, we head to a tap and clean water comes out. It's easy, and we don't have to give it much thought. But for many around the world, it's not easy. Collecting water is a time-consuming daily chore, often for women. Many times, people have to walk miles for it. And if the water itself isn't contaminated, it may conceal dangerous crocodiles or snakes, or be at the end of a precipitous path. Since 2008, Maranatha has been helping to provide water in communities that face these challenges. Over that time, we've drilled more than 3,000 wells in 12 countries. In the past year, we've drilled in Kenya, Zambia, India, Brazil, and the Dominican Republic, bringing accessible water to thousands of people. Each day, our crews traverse harsh environments to bring life to remote villages. We often use a large drilling rig, but in places where access is limited, we'll use smaller portable machines. In some cases, we'll even dig a well by hand. No matter how the well is dug, Maranatha's commitment doesn't end when the team drives away. Maranatha checks on wells we drill, providing routine maintenance. Each well we drill has a phone number for the community to call when a repair is necessary. With clean water on hand, people can have better health and sanitation. Kids can devote all of their attention to education. Parents have time to pursue a trade or give more focus to their family. Community members can come to the local Seventh-day Adventist church well every day, making connections and finding opportunities to learn more about Jesus. Water means life. A better life here and now, and the opportunity to quench spiritual thirst for eternity.
So what do you think about that? Any input on water? Okay, no input on water. That's exactly right. You're going to go home and you're going to turn your faucet on and you're going to forget that you saw this video. It'll happen at least within a day. You'll forget because we take it absolutely for granted. We go to places where they can't take it for granted because they don't have it. So we're trying to provide that for people. And once they have water, they can turn to do other things. You were going to say?
I'm going to add a little bit to this morning's story. I have never done a children's story in the front. I've done a few where there is a young lady from Kenya sitting on the front. Her name is Lydia, who checked me, and she does know Swahili. And she knew exactly what that song was that the people around the well, you can see her smiling over there. And here's what she told me at lunch. Had I asked her, she'd have jumped right up here, grabbed that 40-pound bucket of water and stuck it on her head because she knows how to do that.
It's not too late. It's right here.
And she also runs marathons because she's from a part of Kenya that all the runners, the world-class runners, come from. So you have a Kenyan right here that you can get all the information you want about Kenya and water.
Yes, sir.
And Moara school, yeah. And we had some of our kids go with the kids from that school, and they had to walk 1.4 miles to get water and bring it back on their heads. And that was impressive to know that they had to do that twice a day. And here we just open our faucet and we have water out there. So it's basically, we do take it for granted.
Yeah, they're going to remember that for a while.
And we did drill a well at Maranatha School, so they do have a functioning. Yeah, we have drilled there, so they've got water on campus.
I was just going to say, just before you guys came to that school, we had a family project at Kesey, and one of the activities for the younger kids was to go and walk that path with the children from Maranatha and go down and see for themselves exactly, what it took to do that. So very wonderful experience for kids to be able to experience that. Yes.
Have you had to do further treatment to any water sources? Or have they come up sufficiently clean that you didn't need to treat?
So thankfully, by and large, most of the wells come out with potable water. There are a few places in Kenya where we've had saline water, and there's a few places, particularly the Kajiado school that we talked about during church this morning. We showed the video. Laura talked about it. We actually put in a big treatment plant there to take care of some problems with the water. Most of the time, though, we don't have to treat it. So that's a blessing.
Were the problems mineral or
Mineral.
bacterial? Mineral.
Yeah, mineral. Yeah. Unfortunately, there was, I remember one situation in the north part of Kenya where the water was salty and it just, we were never able to, it wasn't feasible to put a treatment system in there. So they kept the well, they watered some of their, it was kind of on the edge. They could water the animals a little bit with it, but it's really sad when a well is dry, and it's really sad when the water's saline and you can't treat it. But fortunately, we've not been able to, or we've not had to deal with that very often at all. There was one story. Do you want to tell that story, or the one story?
You're talking about
Illoret.
Illoret?
Yeah. So we did hit a salty well there, and there was a lot of prayer happening about that, and the water turned sweet. So yeah, it was a short time after it was drilled. So God has some treatment plants going also, and we've witnessed that. So it's a pretty cool thing to be a part of.
Thank you.
We've seen water come out of the rock, just like the Old Testament. They don't have a corner on that.
This morning, in the children's story, I didn't spend a lot of time emphasizing that little thing. There's 6 wells within 100 meters of the one that was drilled, and that one is not salty, and all the others are. So there are a lot of stories. Don and I went to another place, a couple years ago, and same thing. It was an interesting little conversation that we had with some of the women. They told us, of course, how their backs hurt a lot from carrying the buckets of water and so on. But then we said, why do you think this well has fresh water and the ones in the neighborhood don't? What do you think their answer was? It was similar to that. It was, well, duh, we prayed about it. Like, what's the, it's like, why are you asking such a silly question? There you go. That is real faith, right?
Yes.
I've watched a lot of Maranatha programs, but I've never seen men fetching water, just the women. What's the deal with that?
You're going to have to check with their culture on that. I don't have anything to do with that decision. But yeah, that's exactly true. And, oh, would you like to answer that?
Lydia, do you want to answer why the men don't carry the water?
Men are the head of the family, so they're not allowed to carry things on their heads.
They're not allowed to. Isn't that convenient? Yeah, it's pretty convenient. Okay, we've just gone by our hour. If you wanted to keep going, we could do that, but we can stop at this point unless somebody has a final question.
Yes, I want to know if someone like me wanted to volunteer, what are the steps and what? I'm an empty nester now, so I need to do something. I went to Ghana for 3 months, and I really loved it, but I didn't have an opportunity to do anything like this, and I would love to.
You're asking a great question, and Karen is the right one to answer it.
So I had a chance to talk a little bit with Tamara, right? Tamara, between church and lunch. And I'm just going to give you a general idea. If you go on a trip with Maranatha, and I'm talking mostly about those that are open to everybody, not a group necessarily that would come from here, because I'm not necessarily familiar with how Eric leads it. But I'll tell you what Maranatha's plan is to make you feel comfortable, safe, and well taken care of every step of the way. So when you land at the airport, someone will be there to get you. Why do I say this? Tamara spent 3 months basically on her own in Ghana. And I really admire you for doing this, but that's complicated. It's, to just try to have a feeling of safety, always feeling like you kind of had to be watchful and defending yourself. Those kinds of things you don't need to worry about when you come with Maranatha. When you give us your participation fee, which we keep as low as we possibly can, you are picked up from the airport, and everything that you need from that time until we put you back on the airplane again is taken care of, except for your spending money. So you will have 3 meals a day. You'll have a decent place to sleep. I mean, every group is different, but you'll have a decent and clean place to sleep. You'll have transportation. Usually there is an excursion of some kind that's included, so you get a chance to experience the culture. So the way to do this is to go to Maranatha's website, maranatha.org, click on volunteer at the top, find a team, and scroll through there and see what looks interesting to you. When you click on that, then it will tell you everything you need to do. You register, or you just read about it and pray about it. I have to tell you something. Recently, Dawn's been mentioning it a few times at our convention 2 weekends ago. There was a lady volunteer that has really inspired me. They have a family of 5, and she did not know how they were going to get the money to do this. And I encourage you to go to our website and go look at the convention ones. Her name is Chris Adap, A-D-A-P. She was on Sabbath afternoon at the very end. So if you were to look at, what was up there, listen to her testimony. It was very inspiring to me about prayer and how when you put yourself in God's hands, He will work things out for you. And it was a great story. So I encourage you to read that. And also, if you have anxieties about going on a trip, some people just have lots of anxiety about it. Talk to somebody who's been on a trip. Call us at the office. We have people in the department who will just talk you through about maybe what your anxieties are, and maybe even connect you with somebody who has had similar anxieties and what has happened for them as a result. So everybody's experience is different. We do find, though, that most people's lives are changed and changed for the better. So any other questions about volunteering? Yes? Okay, very good question. It's usually 10 days to 2 weeks. If you're going to Africa, it's almost always home to home, 2 weeks and a day. Okay, so it's not a really long time. Some people who don't need to be back for work or school or whatever will stay a little bit longer and do something else, but that's generally the amount of time. Eric, how long are your trips here? 10 days. Yeah. And when you're doing something just down in the Caribbean or whatever, it can be a little bit shorter than all the travel time that it needs to get to Africa. It's a very different experience to go to Dominican or to Kenya or India. But all of them are really wonderful experiences.
And Karen, those 2-week trips to Kenya often include 2 days of safari. So,
yeah.
So typically that 2-week time period includes at least 2 days spent doing safari, like at the Masai Mara Safari Park. Yeah.
Did you go to Kenya? Okay, but not with Ultimate Workout? Oh, yes, okay. Yes. So this young lady over here, who's now a mom, was very active in projects with Maranatha, and what a treat to see you today. Oh, if you have any questions about what it was like for her, she's done a lot of projects with Maranatha. So, yeah, just go is what she says. Yes.
One of the coolest experiences I had as a young adult leader was I had an 18-year-old boy who had just graduated from high school, and his grandparents were Adventists, but his parents were not in the church. And so for the graduation present to their grandson, they said, we want to send you on a Maranatha mission trip. And they let him choose, because with Ultimate Workout, you can do it this summer after your senior year, and he was 18, and young adult is 18. Well, the Ultimate Workout, I don't know, some country in South America, I can't remember, and the young adult was going to Africa, which meant a safari. So he chose Africa, and here this young man is sitting in our little worship, because we have worship every night when we come back from the work. He's sitting there, and he's like, wait, who's Noah? Who's Adam? Who's, like, he had no, and I mean, it's just, so if you're a grandparent, or if you have a young person under your care, sending them on a mission trip, it was just so cool, so cool.
We've had grandparents literally take their grandkids on trips too. That's really fun to see. So, Angela, thank you. Okay, I want to say one more thing that is really fun to look at if you like to be on the computer. I encourage you to go, there's 2 sites. Besides maranatha.org, if you go to watch.maranatha.org, that has years of Maranatha mission stories. And you can search in there. If you want to look at Kenya, you type in Kenya, and you'll get all the ones coming up for Kenya. If you want to watch Zambia, do the same, or Dominican. So it's really fun. You explore. You can type in water, because if you want to see water projects. The other one is explore.maranatha.org. This will give you a map of the world. You will get to see all the places that Maranatha, in fact, it was up on the screen earlier. And you can type in countries, you can type in specific names. If you've been on trips, ultimately you'll be able to see all the projects you've been on, and with GPS coordinates showing you where they are. So it's a fun site, and it keeps getting developed. So if you don't see what you like the first time, come back, a month later or whatever, and try it out again. So watch.maranatha.org and explore.maranatha. So, yes.
They didn't mention everything about giving. Don is my cousin, and the one area of giving that they didn't talk about is for those of us who are maybe a little older and planning for things to go after we're gone. Maranatha does planned giving as well. And my mother and his mother, obviously were sisters-in-law, and they both left money to Maranatha. And Maranatha pooled the monies that they had left to Maranatha and built a church. And the wonderful thing that they did for us as family is they put up a plaque in the church that was built, and they had a dedication ceremony. My siblings didn't go, but I went to see the church being opened and got to cut the ribbon and everything, and that's a really cool thing that Maranatha does.
Yes, you are absolutely right. Thank you for mentioning that. I might also add that a lot of times family members will put that the memorial funds will go to Maranatha in lieu of flowers. And so many times we are able to do a water well in memory of that person with those memorial funds. And we've lately, in the last several months, we've done quite a few that have a little plaque on the water well that will say in memory of so-and-so. So there are multiple ways to honor people, to share their memory with others, and it's an exciting thing to be able to remember. My father-in-law passed away a little over a year ago, and so as a family, we did a water well, and it's just nice to know that someone is getting life as a result of the tragedy that we all experience. You know, everyone has losses in their life. So, okay, are there any other questions? I guess not. This is Brenda Weiss. She is the wife of Kenneth. She's going to have our benediction. Oh, there's Judy. Oh, let's do that. Okay.
I don't work for Maranatha. I'm a volunteer. Come on up. I get to go on projects. I get to teach science in different places because I'm a science teacher. And as a mom, I've taken my kids since my boys were 4, and this year they have committed, they took their colleagues from Southern Adventist University on a project. And I said, yay, this is what Maranatha is about. I want to see you put it on your head. Yeah.
You can just tie with your kanga like this. This small issue, then you just go up. Normally we cut this one when we are, like you fetch water down the hill and you're climbing up, it's much easier because you have to bend yourself. Otherwise, if you're fetching water from a long distance, normally you circle this hanger like this. So it depends on how you want to put it, but for me, I'll do like this. Yeah, and this, I don't know if I can hold it. This one is much easier because you'll be flexible when you're walking. And you can really walk for a long distance and you can crack jokes and stories. Yeah, I do this for many years, or I did for many years. So for me, it's just. Oh, and I can get that one with my baby on my back. So. Because that's why we always do. Put your baby on the back and then call it churkan on our head. No, it doesn't. Yeah, should be, yeah. Yeah, around 20 kilos. And you can walk with it for a long distance, yeah. So, yeah, we get trained when we are still young, like at his age. When you go fetch water, you just give him the little one to carry on his hands. Then afterwards, we just put them on their heads, and it's just a normal thing.
So somebody asked how far you had to walk when you were.
Okay, for me, I walked like 5 miles. No, two way. Uh-huh. Two and a half, two and a half. Yeah. Each way. Yeah. Actually, I do miss the exercise. Yeah, I saw this jerrycan, we call it jerrycan. Then I told my sister there in Christ, I'm like, that one is from Kenya. And she was like, oh. So afterwards, when you guys are talking about this stuff, I'm like, you remind me about home. And my church back at home we are beneficiary of the Maranatha Church. If maybe when you go to your history, Tambaj SDA Church, actually contributed for that church for almost 30 years. We didn't get enough money to construct a good church, but you guys came in and helped us, and we have a good church back at home, so I'm happy.
Oh, thank you, Lydia. Your mommy is strong. Beautiful. Should we bow our heads for prayer? Dear Lord, we thank you so much for the gifts that you have given us. You are amazing. And we bow in appreciation. We thank you. We thank you that there's so much need because it means there are so many people who want to worship you. And we ask for more work and more need of more churches so that we can keep working until you come. We thank you for the opportunity to be here in Grand Rapids, and we look forward to coming home to be with you. We ask all of this in your name. Amen.
Thank you for coming. If you want to pick up a magazine or sign up for a project or get on our mailing list, there's a little table outside. And there was a question about One Day Church. If you look at the very center picture on the second row, that is the first one-day church in its finished state. So the point is that it does at the bottom in the center. The members do finish the building quite beautifully, and that is the case for most of the places around the world, so it's kind of cool.
Special thanks to David and Judy Scholl for arranging this Sabbath event. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it very much. We have enjoyed being here. Thank you. Yeah. You'll have a good trip. I know you will. Everybody that goes to the Dominican Republic has a great trip. Thank you all.